Guys, Chris at Hardknocks here again. This is a shorter video for you. This is going to be straight fire information for you guys that are trying to do this yourself or just want a bit more information on why we do things the way we do and how we do them. So you'll see behind me is our tube rack, or part of it. There is a lot of steel in that rack. So the main materials that we use here, obviously we use stainless for all of our exhaust work. We do venture into Inconel and titanium, but I'll cover that in another video. For all of our roll cage stuff, we use three different materials. We either use T45, we use ROPT 510, which is a cold drawn steel supplied by Performance Metals, or we use 4130 chromoly. We are looking at moving into a material called Docal R8, but it's only available in America at the moment, and getting it into the UK is a bit tricky. So those three materials are paramount for anything to do with safety devices or rollover protection. As you've seen in previous videos, the Nissan, the console and other vehicles that we've done, they are all made from ROPT 510. It's a mild steel, it can be MIG welded. For those of you that don't know that, it's metal inert gas. So it's the one with the squirty gun with the wire that comes out the end that people often make a big mess of. We do that because it's a cheaper alternative to TIG welding. So for example, to weld 4 joints on a roll cage with a MIG welder takes about 15 minutes. If we're doing it with TIG, there's a lot more effort in the prep, and obviously the welding takes a lot longer. It can actually take up to 4 times longer to TIG weld a pipe joint, especially in a roll cage. There's also the positioning, because not only do you need to have your hand up in the weld joint with the torch, you also need the filler, and then if you're using a button or a pedal like I do, it gets a bit tricky. So that's why TIG welding, which is tungsten inert gas, I'll show you some more about that in other videos. That's the two main sort of welding that we do. With the ROPT 510 cages, usually they are MIG welded because it falls in line with the customer's budget. Anything that is 4130 chromoly, it is TIG welded. I can't remember the exact details, but I'll cover that in another video about why you cannot MIG weld chromoly, but that is the main thing. Chromoly, ROPT 510 and T45. T45 is a wonder material, if you like. It is, for the same wall thickness, it is a lot stronger than mild steel, but it's not quite as strong as chromoly. But it does have the benefit of being able to be TIG welded or MIG welded. So most of what you'll see here covers those three materials. There are some exotic instances. So some of the Porsches, they have titanium roll cages, which is obviously a different story. If you want to know some more about titanium cages, please ask and I'll run you through it. As you can see, like I say, behind me there is a big stack of tube. This is for cars that are with us right now. When we build cages, so especially in the MIG welding incidents, we always try and make it so that we can drop the cage right down through the floor pan, or in the case of the console, we lift the body off. This is to make sure that we can get around every single tube joint and weld it. We have removed, prime example is the Nissan. We removed the cage from that because there was approximately 20% of the tube joints that were not fully welded. That's bad. You don't want that. If your roll cage builder is doing that, step away from them and find somebody else to do it. As we go out through the course of this year, we will show you in detail how we build cages, why we build them the way that we build them. So if you watched the console video, I brushed a bit on the SFI foundation specifications. So the SFI is the SEMA Foundation Inc. Although it's now a completely separate thing, it is still called the SFI. In the SFI Foundation, that gives you your rules for what tube sizes you can use, what wall thicknesses, and more importantly, what material you're using for a certain standard. So a prime example would be, so in a normal street car with a roll cage, you can use 1.75" or 44.5 mil for those of you that like the English stuff. That is your main hoop size, and then like door bars, harness bars, etc. will be done in 1.5 inch or 38 mil. In drag racing, you can actually use a lot smaller. So for a main hoop in a drag car, it would actually be 1 5/8 inches, which is obviously fairly smaller, and if you're doing it in chromoly, it's considerably lighter because you can go down to an 0.83 wall thickness. These tube sizes are very important because the stiffness of a tube does not come from its wall thickness. That is a big misconception. People think if they use a really, really thick tube, it'll be really strong. And that's true to a certain extent. But with roll cages, the stiffness actually comes from its diameter. The same is true with any other tube. And there are two different types of terms for tube, if you like. You've got tube and you've got pipe. Pipe is measured by schedule, and it's measured by its nominal bore. Tube is measured by its OD. So everything that you'll hear us talk about is tube because it's OD, so 2.5 inch tube is 2.5 inch outside diameter. When it comes into roll cages, you wouldn't use anything that big. I think the biggest you would ever use in steel or chromoly would be the 1.75" that we utilise a lot for the main hoops in street cars. The reason that these tubes are important is because they're designed to not only deal with the impact, but also flex enough so that you're not breaking welds and tubes if you have a big impact. The idea of a roll cage is to protect you in the event that you fuck it up. If you get it that wrong and you end up on your roof or in the wall at 200 miles an hour, you need to know that your cage is going to move around and deflect and absorb that energy without transferring it into your body. Because I promise you, hitting the wall at 200 miles an hour is going to fucking hurt. If you don't have a proper cage for that scenario, it's going to end badly. You can see many, many videos out there on YouTube where people have crashed at high speeds with no protection, and it always ends badly for them. Like I said in the last video, safety is paramount. Even if you come to us and you want things done a certain way, if I do not think it is safe, I will not do it. It doesn't matter how much you want to pay or how much you beg and plead, we won't do it. Safety is always the biggest thing. A little while ago, I built a roll cage for a Land Rover, and the guy just wanted it bent up, tacked into position, and he would weld it. I will never do that again, because when we build a cage and we can control the facilities and the production and the quality of it, we know that it is right. We've had it before. A few people have asked us to just make a cage up and send it out. It doesn't work like that, because not every road vehicle is the same. You could take 3 of an identical vehicle and the measurements will all be different, only slightly, but enough to make it a problem. So if you ask us to build a roll cage, we will build you a roll cage to a certain specification. For non-drag racing stuff, you look at the MSA, which is the Motorsport Association, and you have the Blue Book. In that Blue Book, it gives you your general safety rules for tube sizing, tube positions, and like your floor plates as to where your cage would tie into. And these are all very important. And we see it a lot where people have undersized the tube or undersized the plate because they couldn't fit it. It's just not the right way to do it. So it's not just about coming to me and getting shit done, because yes, I appreciate everybody's business, but I also appreciate there is thousands of other fabricators out there that are either faster, cheaper, or can do it sooner, or whichever. The main thing is make sure that your fabricator knows what they're doing, and if they're not, make sure they know how to ask. Even this morning, I phoned Robinson Race Cars to find out some information on another vehicle that we've got to do, because I don't know it. And the only way that you will learn, or your fabricator will learn, or anybody in this automotive industry, is by asking or researching. We won't just throw stuff together in the hope that it's right. We will actually research it and look into it, and we'll, like the console, we bought the proper chassis book so that we know exactly what's got to be put where, what sizes it needs to be, and what the standards for that speed are. We're going to do a lot more of these videos. They'll probably be released midweek, but they're just information regarding what we do, why we use a certain material, why we employ certain welding techniques, how we do things, how we design, and how we draw. It should be quite interesting for a lot of you, but if some of you don't fully understand what I'm talking about, or if you think I'm talking fucking German, put a comment down below and I will do my best to answer it in the best way that I can. If I don't know the answer, I'll certainly find out for you. That's me today. Thank you very much.